So I want to dedicate the shir. It should be is just the art side of Rav Ovadia Yosef Ben Gorgia. It was the art side, I believe, Thursday night, Friday. So it should be Lilu Nishmato. Should be a schut chutot again that I know. And also for a dear friend of mine, for a long time I wanted to do something for her. She passed away a couple of years ago and left 8 yatomim, unfortunately. Nobody should know from such things. Her name is Devorah Bat Adel and Reb Shimshon, and her neshama should have an aliyah. Nishmat Abed and Eden. Should be a schut for her. And also it should be a refuah shlema for my father, Shimon ben Rivka, together with any other cholim. I'm sure everybody has a name that they want to add. Should be Toch Shach Chodam Yisrael, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, Mehira B'ezrat Hashem.
Amen.
And my grandma, Rivka Bat Chasiba, she have refuah shlema. So I really for a long time wanted to start a shir. I used to give a shir, I told some of you, in New York, to ladies, just as a shul. Really, I've been teaching for over 20 years, different ages. I wrote in my email. I taught high school and I taught post-high school, and then I taught ladies. And, I just felt that the only way for me to get my inspiration is if I actually prepare the work, and then give it over. And it forced me to prepare because we're always busy and always things to do. And then I came here and I was looking for a shir, looking for some inspiration, and I didn't really find anything. I know a lot of things are in the day, and I work full day, so it's not possible. So then I'm like, okay, I got to start something. And everyone's like, start. Just has to be the right time. And then I said, Parshas Bereshis, Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, it's time to start. So I actually wanted to start something right before the Chagim. I was like, it's too busy. No. So I said, let's do it now. It's now or never. And it was like very short notice. Like I just, planned it this week. But Emet Hashem, we should have Siyata Dishmaya. And I hope that you can continue to come. I would like to make it a series. And I feel like everybody needs chizuk and emuna. Emuna is something that Frida was just telling me, like, we're constantly learning that we need more and more to be mechazek in emuna. As we get older and as we have life challenges, everybody needs to strengthen their emuna and bitachon in Hashem and bring them closer to see the Yad Hashem. And really, hopefully, through the shiurim, we can be able to do that, to see more of a brighter picture of how Hashem is in our lives and be able to be mechazek and grow from that, and that's really the key. The more we learn something, the more we notice it in our life. I know for myself, like the more I hear something and the more I learn something, then all of a sudden I start seeing it and I'm like, oh wait, I just learned that, and I see it again and again. So do you mind passing me a napkin, please? Thank you so much. So I want to thank you all for coming, first of all, and I hope in Mitzvah Hashem it should be we should continue to grow and learn together. So in starting to prepare, and I've been listening to shirim here and there about bitachon, but once I started to open up Sfarim, there's just a plethora. There's so much, information and so much that we can, go into and delve. So this is just going to be like an intro, and we're going to see where it takes it. I haven't yet developed how I want to develop this, and maybe you'll give me ideas as well. But I'm just going through this farm, and I want to just first talk about the importance of bitachon and emuna. And really they're synonymous. We're going to talk about them. And I'm going to be quoting from a few sfarim. So one of the sfarim, the main sfarim that a lot of the, other shiurim and other rabbanim use, and one of them is I forgot to bring him up. I'm going to bring it later. Rabbi Asher, David Asher. Hello, welcome. So Reb David Asher is his daily Emuna, every day giving chizuk and Emuna, and he just gives like a story of something that happened and relates how important it is. So one of the sources, and I spoke to him, he gave a shir here, Avinu Malkeinu, he came to speak with Rabbi Wallerstein, and I told him, I really want to start a shir. I said, what do you recommend? And he said, Shar Bitachon Chovos HaLevavos. So that's what I opened up, and I actually got the parish of Rabbi Victor Miller on it, which is beautiful. So if anybody wants to get it, I recommend it. And he starts off saying in Chovos HaLevavos, Mashu tzarich mikol hadvarim Let me just open it up. Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning. He says, אמר המחבר מפני שקדם מאמרנו בחיוב קבלת עבודת האלוקים. I'm going to translate. Thank you for coming. Welcome. And he explains what is the chiyuv of avodas elokim, being able to serve Hashem. Come in, welcome. We just got started. ראיתי להביא אחריו משהו צריך יותר מכל הדברים לעובד האלוקים יתברך. What is the most necessary thing that one needs to be working on in order to expand in his avodas Hashem is bitachon. והביטחון הוא הביטחון עליו בכל דבריו. That a person should be able to have bitachon in all of his avodas Hashem. That is the most important requirement in avodas Hashem is bitachon. And the most important way to serve Hashem is through bitachon and through Emuna. And how does one do that? So there's different ways. The first thing is a person's thoughts. A person's thoughts are what helps him to be able to recognize that Hashem is in charge. And that's the prerequisite for avodas Elokim, he says. And bitachon is one form of what we say is Emuna. We call it Emuna, right? He says bitachon tells us to know that Hashem is in charge. We have to understand and know in our mind that Hashem is in charge. That's number one. And number two, he says, is that Hashem is chafetz chesed. Hashem wants to do chesed with his creations. He desires chafetz. He desires to do chesed with his creations. So these two ideas need to be established in our mind. And this is Rav Victor Miller. These two, based on the Shara Bitachon Chovos Alavavos, these two ideas have to be established in our mind. Number one, that Hashem does everything, that everything's under Hashem's control. And number two, that Hashem does it all for the purpose of chesed. That he wants to be meitiv. We know that we just had Bereshit, right? Bereshit bara Elokim. And why did Hashem create the world? Why did Hashem put us in this world? L'hetiv, in order to bestow kindness, to do chesed to the briot. Because Hashem doesn't need us, right? He's not dependent on us, but it was in order to do chesed. And that's one of the biggest mitzvahs of Hashem, is that he is about chesed, right? His synonymous with chesed, that he wants to give, l'hetiv, to the briot. So bitachon, he says in Shar Bitachon, is needed for everything that we do. It's needed for parnasa, it's needed for briut, for relationships with our families, with our friends, neighbors, in learning, in davening. And we're going to talk about how we're going to see it in davening. It's already implanted in the davening. We don't even realize that it's in there. And one example is, we start davening, what do we say? Hashem sefatai tiftach, ufi yagi teilatecha. We say, Hashem, open up my mouth so that I should say your praises. In a sense, what are we doing? We're saying a prayer, we're saying a tefillah to succeed in the tefillah that we're about to say and what we're about to ask from Hashem. We're asking permission from Hashem, yes, to speak, but we're also asking Hashem to help us succeed in that which we're going to daven. And what do we have? We have bitachon, that success in tefillah really depends on who? On Hashem's help. That even before I started my shir, I say a tefillah, Hashem help me that I should say the right words, that the right words come out of my mind. That a person could prepare from here to Yehupitzville, and all of a sudden, different things come to your mind, and you say different. I know I prepare my shir from A to Z, and then sometimes I give a shir, and it was like a totally different shir, like what happened there? Because Hashem, we say, Hashem, please help me to prepare the thoughts and the words that come out of my mouth to be able to express what needs to be expressed. And sometimes you never know how. I know people approach me after the shir, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed to hear, even though it was not even in my notes, because that's the hashgacha, that Hashem wants somebody to hear something, or wants you to, you have thoughts in your mind, but when you're uttering the tefillah to Hashem, you don't even realize what you're saying, because sometimes what you're saying, and what you're thinking is not always synonymous. So when we're uttering the words to Hashem, that Hashem should have the right kavanot, to help us to have the right kavanot in what's going to happen. So we ask Hashem, we have bitachon, that Hashem help us succeed in our tefillah. And not only that, we shouldn't even don't rely on yourself when we're davening, we say Hashem sefatai tiftach, going back to that. Don't rely on yourself, not even for a mitzvah. A person shouldn't think, oh, I'm doing a mitzvah anyway, you know. I don't need Hashem, like, I'm doing it. No. We need bitachon for atzlacha for everything in our life. Everything. Even if it's related to mitzvahs. And we're going to see that in another sefer I'm going to mention. Bitachon is for Yisrael. Why? Because we have what's called hashgacha pratit. Hashem watches over the Jewish people independently, each one. Hashem has we have private providence, right? Hashem watches over us. And for the Goyim, it's hashgacha klalit, it's general. And he explains that Jews have yirat Hashem, we have fear of Hashem. And there's a concept of schar and onesh, reward and punishment, that's where it comes from. The Jews' bitachon has an effect on their future. And bitachon doesn't mean that you're going to get whatever you want. You know, like, oh, I trust in Hashem, so I'm going to get whatever I want. No, bitachon means that we're doing Hashem's will and that Hashem will do what's ultimately good for us. And this is what we're going to talk about more and more when we speak about bitachon, is that we think we know what's good for us. But ultimately what happens is that our plan and what we think is going to be good for us was not really good for us in the end, because we don't know the end result, right? We're only here in the present. And Hashem is Hayah, Hoveh, V'yeh. He is not bound by any time. We're bound by time. We only live here and now. We can know what happened in the past, try to correct it and rectify it. But we don't know what's going to be the end result. And sometimes a person could think and plan, and you know how it is, right? And then we say, man plans and Hashem laughs, right? So Hashem knows what's good for us. Imagine, he says, Victor Miller, that a person gets a key to a pharmacy. You get a key to go to the pharmacy to get any medicines that you need, you know, whatever you need, all the medicines that are good for you. But how do you know which medicine's what, right? How do you know if that medicine's not going to be poisonous to you? Just because you have a key to a pharmacy doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get all the good stuff that's necessary for you to be able to your health. For every person it's different, you know, what they need. So he says you have to know what medicines to take when you're given the key to a pharmacy. You can't just, because you have the key, so that's why therefore it's like, you know, open reign. And the same thing with bitachon. That's what it means that we don't know what's good for us. Hashem ultimately knows what's good for us. And for one person it might be good, for another person it might be poisonous. It might not be good at all. You know, there are people that have a whole list of shidduchim. I'm sure Rachi, who's involved in shidduchim, could tell you a whole list from here to Huppitville, you know, of what they think they need and they want. And you know, I had a friend who's an older single, and she got married very late. And I remember she said she didn't want a guy with a beard. She didn't want a guy from around the corner, like in her neighborhood. And I forgot what was the other thing, maybe a redhead. She got a redhead with a beard from across the street or around the corner, like all of three things that she didn't want. Yeah. You know, like it was just like little nuances, but just Hashem showing you, like, I will give you what you think you don't want is really, it's fine, you know, you'll deal with it. But Baruch Hashem was a great guy and they're happily married, so that's the most important thing, right? But those are little things that sometimes people have a little bit bigger requests and they think that they want certain things, and we see that sometimes that's not necessarily what's good for them. That's not, you know, and they won't know that until sometimes. I'll give you an example. I had another friend who was in shidduchim, and you know, checked it out. Great guy, everything's good, and like she was like ready to commit, but something was like bothering her. So another person was sitting and talking to her, and she was telling her, you know, an experience that she had, and there was something that she went through that she realized that the person was ill and that there was medical history. So she mentioned, you know, maybe you should find out if there's anything. Did you check that out? And she said, no. What do you mean? No, I didn't. And she told her mother, and they went and found out. And supposedly the boy had some sort of addiction. Actually was on medication, and nobody mentioned anything. But because she asked, in the end, she broke it off, and she said, you saved my life. You know, she said, you saved my life to this person. And why did she tell her that? Like, why did she even tell that story? It's like Hashem wanted her to hear the story, that she should go back and find that out. And, you know, Baruch Hashem, today she's happily married to a different guy and has kids. But, you know, she said, wow, you saved my life. So sometimes Hashem puts us in certain situations to find out certain things. But if we're really a botech b'Hashem, then we know And at that time, she said she was really depressed after she broke up with this guy. She didn't think it was good. But later on, she realized, everything's with Tova. Something that's after the fact. So anyway, continuing with what we were saying with bitachon, Hashem conducts our affairs according to the best manner that's for me. Every person gets their own private providence, like we said. And it's in response to what? To the way we are boteach in Hashem. So it's so important in Torah and mitzvahs also, like the way we do Torah mitzvahs. And, I was reading, I think it was with Gamliel Sefer. Yeah. Gamliel Rabinovich has a beautiful Sefer on Emuna. And this I was lucky to pick up just in the Miriam's bookstore. It's called The Essence of Emuna. And the Hebrew is Sefer Tiv HaEmuna. And he just, a lot of stuff, like a lot of things in relation to mitzvahs and to Torah and Emuna. And the first thing that he says is that a person must train his heart so that the pursuit of Emuna will be his highest aspiration. He has to constantly aspire, and the entire eminence of one's actions is measured according to his Emuna. It's like, whoa. That means like, even if we just, we keep the mitzvahs, it's not enough. Really, we have to work on being boteach b'Hashem and trusting that everything's for our good. He says to the degree that a person sets his heart to live with Emuna and sets his heart, in this way, his Torah and mitzvahs will be evaluated.
Who did you say was that?
Gamliel Rabinovich.
Sorry. Sorry. Thanks.
So in that way, a person's Torah mitzvahs, what does that mean? That way, a person's mitzvahs and Torah will be evaluated. It says it means one who does a mitzvah according to halacha, 100% according to halacha, lefi Torat Moshe Misinai, right, will not have necessarily attained the objective of the mitzvah. It's a powerful statement. Mm-hmm. He could do a mitzvah 100%, but you didn't necessarily get the point of that mitzvah. Maybe you're supposed to do that mitzvah to be able to attain some sort of benefit from it on a level of emuna and bitachon. That it's not just doing the mitzvah. And he says emuna implies a deep recognition, a definite understanding of a few things. Number one, Lifnei mi ata omed. How many times we start davening and we just say the words, and we're all of a sudden in the middle of Shemona Esrei and whoa, where am I? You're like, Modim anachnu lach. What happened to my Shemona Esrei? You're thinking about your shopping list and where you have to go and the carpools and whatever else you're worried about. Really, it's focusing and thinking, Lifnei mi ata omed. Who am I standing in front of? What am I about to do? I'm about to perform this mitzvah. For who? For what? A lot of times, he explains, we do things by rote. Mm-hmm. I remember meeting once somebody in New York. I used to live in New York. And I met this lady in the bakery. And we're schmoozing. And I'm saying, hi, how are you? What's your name? And she said, I never saw you. She said, where'd you go to school? So I actually went to public school in my youth. So she's like, what? You went to public school? And she sees me on shaitel. And yeah. I'm like, wow, amazing. You're about tshuva. Yeah. She starts talking to me. She's like, I'm like, what? It's not like she's never seen a Baal Tshuva, She's like, you don't understand. I have such respect for Baal Tshuva. They always have enthusiasm, whatever they're doing. They're always excited. She goes, me, I grew up this way. I do mitzvahs because I have to do it, I have to keep Shabbos. I have to keep kashrus, I don't think about what I'm doing. I just do it. She said, but you guys feel excited about what you're doing, It's not always true, but halavai should be true. But yes, on a certain level, when people are Baalei Tshuva, it's always fresh, it's always new, and they're, thinking about it. And that's really, we all are Baalei Tshuva. We all have to constantly be working on this avodah, to think before I'm about to do something, wait a minute, why am I doing this? And to recognize that we're doing a mitzvah. That it's not just that I'm doing it because I have to do it, which is oftentimes what we do, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I have to do Netilas Yadayim before I eat bread. What I'm saying? I have to. Mm-hmm. So Rabbi Arush, he's incredible. I don't know if you ever heard Rabbi Arush speak, but all he does is smile from ear to ear. And he's always telling jokes. and everything is like happy and, jolly. And he says, you go to do Netilat Yadayim. You say, thank you to Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, for the water. Thank you, Hashem, for my cup. Thank you, Hashem, for having a clean towel. Thank you, Hashem, for the sink. He's like, do we really do that? No. It's like, let me wash and get it over with, so I can eat my bread quickly and go bench and go back to what I have to do, right? And then we sometimes even contemplate if we should wash because it takes too long. We have to bench. We don't think of it as like, I'm doing a mitzvah. Like, we don't think of it like that. It's the tircha. It becomes like an all. It becomes like, it's so hard, It's like the quickest way, like mazonos bread, let's take mazonos bread, right? So the Rabbanim say there's no such thing as mazonos bread. Right. Bread you have to wash, you have to bench. So do we think like this? Lifnei mi ata omed, like who are you standing in front of? I'm doing a mitzvah. I'm going to serve the Borei Olam. And that's the next thing. Et mi ata oved umesameach. Who are you exerting yourself to serve and to bring pleasure to? Really, we don't think like this. I don't know you. About you. I don't think like this, right? I'm about to do something that's going to give pleasure to the Borei Olam. That's what we're doing. We're doing a mitzvah. So A, we have to recognize who we're doing the mitzvah for. B, we have to realize that we're giving pleasure to Hashem in doing the mitzvah. And then he says, Et mi ata rotzeh leitkarev shenoten lecha koach lasot hakol. Who you want to be connected to that gives you the ability to accomplish anything that you want. Like if you realize, I want to be connected to Hashem because Hashem is going to help me in everything I do in life, right? So any mitzvah that we do, this is the Emuna that's implanted that we have to think, that we have to recognize who are we talking to and why are we doing this, and to really have the right kavanot. Of course, it's hard to do all the time, but I think if we train ourselves to do it at least once a day, like a Rarush was saying, like just by the water, like you're washing, what, I have water, like the olden days used to schlep the water, olden days, it wasn't so long ago, right? They used to schlep the water and bring it from the well and schlep. I was talking to somebody who lived in Morocco, that they didn't have a sink, they didn't even have a fridge, all these little things that we take for granted. And that's what's becoming with our society, with technology. Everything's moving so fast. Soon we're going to have computers. We tell them what to do. We don't even have to do anything. Don't open the fridge. Just tell the fridge to open by itself. That's what it's going to be. And then, you can have a robot giving you a cup of water, Soon they can have cars that drive themselves. You don't have to drive it. So that's crazy, because that means that you don't appreciate what we have. We're losing the sensitivity and understanding that everything that we have is really a gift from Hashem. And that's where we have to sort of slow down and stop ourselves and think before we're actually doing the mitzvah. And that's why he says it's so important. That one who fulfills Torah mitzvahs by rote, he says, without feeling and lacking tangible Emuna, this is really scary, is likened to one who adorns a dead person with jewelry, beautifying his maasim with all types of points and things, but really devoid of any life. Which is a little scary to think about, because that means I'm doing the mitzvah, but I'm not thinking about the mitzvah. Now there is a point that he's making, a side point that he makes, that we still get schar. There's always schar for doing a mitzvah, even if you don't do it lishma, even if you don't have the right kavanot. Nobody should be scared, okay, wait, what am I doing mitzvah? Something I've been thinking about what I'm doing, and oh my gosh. No, Baruch Hashem, we still get schar, but it's not comparable, he says, to somebody who actually has a proper kavanah with Emuna to be able to do the mitzvah in the right way. So it's important to try to focus on this. And he says the life source of mitzvot is Emuna. That's the life source. That's what gives a chiyut. And with Emuna, mitzvot can ascend before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and bring us to dveikut b'Hashem, to closeness to Hashem. We'll get closer to Hashem. We'll be able to see Hashem. And each mitzvah can make one more and more and more connected to Hashem. And really, that's the point of mitzvot. Hashem gave us all the mitzvot. Why did he give us 613 mitzvot? He could have given us a few. Why so many? Because there are different mitzvahs related to different people that they can keep it right in Klal Yisrael. Some is for Kohanim, some are for Levim, some are for men, some are, for ladies, for children. Different mitzvahs, right? They're related to different times. But there are also so many mitzvahs to give us the ability to have schar. Hashem gave us the ability to have more and more schar. The more mitzvahs Hashem gave us, the more schar to be able to have more schar in it. So at least we should have the right kavanot. And the influence of a mitzvah is measured by emuna, he says. And he says, sadly, a person can keep, like I mentioned, Torah mitzvahs and not really be connected to Hashem. And those are people that are lacking the meaning in their life. And as we said before, people are jealous, like, wow, how do you have meaning? But I think what's important, and I know for myself, is when we do it by rote, it's because we're used to it. A person has to try to be mechadesh something. You have to try it every day, to try to do something to renew those, the things that we do by rote. And whether it's listening to a little shir, we could listen today on a WhatsApp for 5 minutes in the car, or it's learning a sefer for 5 minutes, or going to a shir. Thank you all for coming. Or reading something. There's so many books out there that help us to be able to have more of a focus and more of an awareness of the mitzvahs that we keep, and that's what's going to help us. So nobody should feel guilty leaving here, like well, I don't think about everything mitzvah that I do. I don't either. But I think that if we just reflect upon one mitzvah and try to boost it up and give it a little bit more kavana, that's what Hashem really wants from us. And this is the goal, that Emuna is a true goal of all Torah mitzvahs. There's a pasuk in Tehillim that says, Kol mitzvotecha emuna, that a person should try to infuse all his mitzvahs with emuna. And there's a medrash actually that's brought down that a person who is worthy of having, a person who has emuna is worthy of having ruach hakodesh, and is able to sing shira to Hashem. It's like, whoa, like just by having emuna. And where do we see this from? It says, V'yaminu b'Hashem v'Moshe avdo. The Bnei Yisrael believed in Hashem and Moshe avdo. And the next thing it says is that Moshe and Bnei Yisrael sang shira to Hashem. So that was a form of ruach hakodesh, and then they sang shira. So just by having emuna, we're able to sort of have even a bit of ruach hakodesh and a bit of an understanding and a closeness to Hashem, that we even sing shira, a higher level of just not just tefillah, it's even higher level than tefillah. So true perfection is solely achieved through dveikus and Hashem. And dveikut, we said, is connecting with Hashem. Like David HaMelech said, "Achat sha'alti me'et Hashem ota avakesh," right? There's one thing that he asked for, and what is that? Shifti beveit Hashem kol yemei chayai. I want to be able to sit in the house of Hashem, dwell in the house of Hashem all the days of my life. Because that's essence what we want. We want to be closer and closer to Hashem. So now I want to talk about a little bit what we spoke about earlier, is the basis for tefillah is emuna. If we look at our siddur, we see that, and this is also Gamliel Rabinovich, we see that every part of our tefillah is infused with emuna. What is the pasuk that we say that we are showing our recognition of the oneness of Hashem? Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That Hashem, who is our God, is the one Hashem. Before the tefillah, before we start even Baruch She'amar, there's a section that ladies skip because it's way too long and we don't have time to daven. We don't have to say it, but it's nice to say if we have extra time. And that section is the korbanos, right? That's the whole section of korbanos. That's labriut. That's the introduction to tefillah is korbanos. I don't know if you know, there's different levels of Pi Kabbalah that we are approaching as we go through the stages of emuna. There's the level before Baruch She'amar that we achieve, sort of like different sort of gates that we're going through until we get to the highest gate, which is the gate of where Shemona Esrei, right? That's like the highest gate that we reach. That's the highest level to be able to, of davening. And that's what we build up to it, right? There's psukes, there's Zimra, the songs of praise that we say, Hallelujahs, Ashrei, Hallelujahs, all those, right? Then there's Ishtabach, then there's the Birchos Kriya Shema, and then there's Shema, and the brachos after Shema, and then we get up until the Amidah, which is the epitome of the tefillah, right? All this, now where does tefillah come from? Who told us that we have to daven? So really, in the olden days, there was no formal siddur, right? Right, the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, the men of the Great Assembly, they were the ones that established the proper tefillah that we have today. But really, they used to just talk to Hashem, and they used to bring korbanos. So it says in the, I forgot what it was, the Gemara, I don't know if it mentions that, what's the pasuk? I actually taught tefillah, and I forgot the pasuk right now. that instead of the korbanos, we bring, we daven. Our tefillah today, I forgot the pasuk, is instead of the korbanot. So when we are davening, instead of bringing korbanot, but there is a section of the korbanot that we say, and that's called avodat Hashem. So even before the korbanot, which is avodat Hashem, there is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Did you ever notice that in the siddur? Right? There's the statement of Shema Yisrael right before even you get to Baruch She'amar. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And then before the Amidah, of course, it's called the Olam HaAtzilut. That's why I told you it's the highest level. We reinforce our Emuna with Shema again. When we say the Shema, that's our Shema. And a Jew's service of Hashem rests on this Emuna. So this Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is a statement of Emuna and Hashem, that we believe in one Hashem. And it's a declaration that there's no one besides Hashem, right? No higher power besides Hashem, no higher plane. We have to recognize that this is a statement of Emuna. And what he says is we're passing from the outer, this is in the tefillah, we're passing like as if we're in the Beis HaMikdash, the outer courtyard, and then we're entering the inner courtyard. And in order to go from the outer courtyard to the inner courtyard, the steps of tefillah that I told you, we have to declare our Emuna. And our Emuna gets higher and higher. So we have the Shema before Kabbanot, then we have the Shema before the Amidah. Does anybody know another Shema that we say in the tefillah? We're not usually in shul, but on Shabbos we are.
Mariv?
Before Mariv, no. In the morning, tefillah.
Oh, yeah, during the, when we bring out the Torah.
Very good. Before Kriyat Torah, we say, again, the Chazan says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and we repeat it after him, right? Because then we're entering another level of avoda. And therefore we have to infuse, he says, our avoda again with the life source of Emuna, right? In order to be able to fulfill the mitzvot properly, he says. Then there's another time we say Shema, if we're in shul on Shabbos, and that's the Musaf of Shabbos. In the Kedusha, when the Chazan says the Kedusha, we repeat after him and we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad again. And then later on in Mincha, we don't say Shema Yisrael, but what do we say? Ata Echad V'Shimcha Echad, you are one and your name is one. That's in the Shemona Esrei of Mincha, that we're declaring the oneness of Hashem. And then by Ma'ariv, somebody said, right? We say it again. And then when do we say it again? Before we go to sleep. So we're constantly working on building and building upon this Emuna that we already have. That's what we were saying at the beginning of this year. It's like we all have Emuna, right? But like we can always build on that Emuna. We can learn more about Emuna. We can strengthen our Emuna. And Hashem infuses it in our tefillah that we should be able to do so. In order for us to achieve these levels, we have to plug in and constantly work on this Emuna. So every avodah begins and concludes with a recognition of Emuna, and it's not over. What do we say at the end of our davening? At the end of our davening. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, right? We say we're thanking Hashem, we're meshabeach, we're praising Hashem, l'adon hakol. L'tet gedula liotzer bereshit. We are giving greatness to the one who created, the creator of all creations, right? So we recite this at the end of a tefillah in order to fulfill and guard within us the levels that we already achieved with Emuna. It's like now we have it and we're sort of like locking it in. You know, that's what he says. And Aleinu is said to intensify our Emuna in ourselves, to strengthen the truth of our foundation, and to guard our spiritual selves. Like, whoa. Say it again. Aleinu is said to intensify our Emuna in ourselves, to strengthen the truth of our foundation, and guard our spiritual selves. And if we think about, we just passed through Yom Kippur, right? On Yom Kippur, at the end of Yom Kippur, after we were like malachim, right? We were like malachim on Yom Kippur. We wore white, we fasted, all we did is pray all day long. What do we do to lock in our emuna? What do we say at the end by ne'ilah when we're locking in our faith? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and Hashem Hu Elokim, Hashem Hu Elokim, right? We repeat it, that Hashem is the only one Hashem, because we want, he says, we want to imprint within ourselves the Emuna attained on this holy day by proclaiming the unity of Hashem. This never ends. It's constant. It's at the beginning of the year, it's the beginning of our tefillah, it's at the end of our tefillah, it's throughout our day. And this is why it's so, so important for us to be able to work on our emuna and to strengthen our emuna. This is just like the beginning. This is like just a taste, you know? But this is so, so important. And this is our avoda, he says, as Jews, as Israel, as we mentioned before. And this is what, throughout this farm, what do we do? The first thing we do as Bnei Israel, we wake up in the morning, what do? We say, Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. What's modeh? We're called Yehudim. Yehudim come from Lashon Hoda'ah, Modeh ani modeh. I thank you, Hashem. It doesn't only mean to thank, it means to acknowledge that Hashem did for us. I'll tell you a beautiful thing I once heard from Rav Kellerman. We were just discussing, Rav Kellerman gives Musar Vad. And I once took it, and he was talking about being a chayav. What does that mean, being a chayav? A person is obligated to thank Hashem. It's not something that's like by choice, you know, like that's our avoda as Jews, is to thank Hashem and to recognize Hashem in our life. So he says, somebody does something for you, does you a favor. He holds the door open, you're holding packages, he holds the door open. What do you say? Thank you. But you know what? That's warped. Because what are you saying? Thank you. Like, you did me a favor, thank you. Who's doing the thanks? Who needs to thank? I need to thank. In Hebrew, you say, Ani modeh lecha. Even though you say todah, I know you say todah. But really, Ani modeh lecha. Which means, not only I thank you, I acknowledge that which you did for me. Because the mechuyavut, the responsibility and accountability to recognize that a person did something for you is on you. But in English, you say, thank you, right? This doesn't really do credence for it. That's not really recognizing that I am required. Yes, we say thank you. But when you say it in Hebrew, Lashon HaKodesh, Ani modeh lecha. I have to recognize the mechuyavut is on me. That a person is considered a chayav. We are mechuyavim. We are obligated to thank people and to thank Hashem and to see the favors that Hashem does for us on a daily basis. So this is the job of a Jew, and that's Emuna. Emuna is being able to be modeh every single day. Not only on the good, also on those things that are not good. I don't know if you ever saw the Tefillah Todah. Any of you ever saw it?
Terrific.
There's a Tefillah Todah. I'm going to give it to you, ladies, because I actually have a few of them.
Very special.
There's a beautiful Tefillah left in my room.
Right, yeah.
The Todah al ma shenatata li, Todah al ma sheyesh li, u'ma she'en li. You know, on the things that are good for me and the things that are not good for me, I know it's for my good because it's from you. Even the things that are hard for me, even the things that I don't have and I lack, thank you, Hashem, for those things, because I know that they're ultimately for my good. How many times do we lack something and that forces us to pray for it, right? We see from the Torah, who are the ones who showed us how to pray? Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and their wives, Sarah, Rivka, and Leah. They were barren. They didn't have children. Why? Why did Hashem make them like that? So the Rabbanim explain, Rav Pinkus explained his Sfarim on Tefillah, because it was in order for them to have a lack, something that they should lack, so they should be dependent on Hashem and ask. And even before Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, we're told that Hashem put it in this world that we should be lacking. Who was the first person to pray? Adam Arisha. What did Hashem do? He put everything in creation in its place, but nothing was put in potential. The potential didn't start until what?
Right.
Everything was standstill until Adam asked for rain. And then things started to grow, and then things started to come to fruition, and the potential started. Adam needed to ask Hashem for the rain, and then Hashem gave him the rain, and then things started to grow, and then he had food, and everything started to work according to the way it was supposed to work. Meaning to say that man should be constantly dependent on Hashem, and Hashem puts the lacks in our lives that we should be asking, that we should be dependent, because we know that if we have everything we have, we don't look at it, we don't say thank you for everything we have. But that's what our Rabbi says is we should do, and all this farm. That Hakarat Tov doesn't only mean to just say thank you when somebody does you a favor. Hashem does favors for us all the time. So I once heard a story of a man, he was explaining, somebody was saying modim, I think it was for Spiro saying a story, and he was like taking a long time when he was bowing. So someone asked him afterwards, like, why do you take so long when you're saying modim and you're bowing? He said, what do you mean? I have to thank Hashem that I'm able to stand, I'm able to bend, I'm able to walk, I'm able to talk. I have to think of all the things that I'm able to do in a day. Like, I have so many things. I wish I had even more time. Like, how many times that we just modim anachnu lach and we just continue, Really, we should stop and modim every day, make a list, maybe of 5 things at least that we should be thankful for when we're saying modim. And for the littlest things, the ability to breathe. The ability to breathe. Well, oftentimes we have, everything's in nature is there. We see it and we don't recognize that it's a gift. You walk out, it's sunny outside. Thank you, Hashem, it's sunny. Do we say that? No. We only complain when there's no sun. It's not sunny today, it's raining today, right? But, we have to start opening our eyes and recognizing the good and recognizing the positive things in our life, and that it shouldn't be chas v'chayil that only we're chaser, that we're lacking, in order for us to ask Hashem to give us and to instill in us, this midah, that we should constantly be working on it. So I want to mention something I said I would speak about, Rav David Asher. I actually forgot to bring the book here to read from it. Maybe we could read from your book. But I have actually something that he spoke about. I'm not going to read from the book yet. We'll see if there's time. Because I want to talk about something he spoke about from this week's parsha. Does anybody get his daily chizuk in Emuna? He has, you have the chat, you get it? So I'm going to be saying over what he said over this week for Erev Shabbat. He said a beautiful, beautiful word, and it's really powerful. He said, Noach ish tzaddik tamim haya bedorotav. Noach was a tzaddik, a righteous person, right? And he was a tamim. He was pure. He was pure soul. Bedorotav, it says, in his generations. Why doesn't it say bedoro? In his generation. Why does it say bedorotav? Good question, no? In his generations. So there's 2 generations that Noach went through. Dor hamabul and Dor haflaga. The generation of the flood and the generation of the dispersed, the people who did sinful things in his generation. So he says that despite living through the generation of the flood, now we know that there's different opinions about this, that in his generations he was a tzaddik. If he would have lived in a different generation, he wouldn't have been a tzaddik. So it's not always to his praise, but it is to his praise because everybody else didn't survive and he did survive in his generation, right? So that's his praise. But there's another point here. Despite living through the generation of the Mabul, Noach remained a tzaddik. He remained a righteous person because he did not get influenced by the people around him. Yeah, maybe he could have done some kiruv, but he didn't get influenced by the people around him. Regarding the Dor HaFlaga, who rebelled against Hashem, Noach nishar tamim. Noach remained pure. He was whole and complete with Hashem. What is a tamim? A tam. Ish tam, right? Remember Yaakov is called an ish tam. Tam is a person who accepts the way Hashem deals with him, even when Hashem does hardships to him. A tam knows that Hashem does exactly what's necessary for him to fulfill his purpose here. So he accepts the ratzon of Hashem with love.
How would you compare that with the Tam Pesach by the Seder?
A boy that doesn't know.
It's
He's
the
pure
same
and
time.
innocent. He doesn't know from anything. He accepts. He doesn't know, maybe. Could be that in that way.
I see.
He accepts. Like whatever you tell him, he accepts. He doesn't ask questions.
Because that's a negative connotation there.
Right. But maybe because he accepts. He doesn't understand that he's accepting, He just goes with the flow, that in that way, I think, maybe in that way. But a person who's tam, meaning tamim, here it means tamim, I think, which is whole, complete. He is accepting the ratzon of Hashem with love. I was just thinking of something when I was reading this. Please, everyone, take something to drink, eat. Maybe you don't have to worry that I'm talking. Okay, I'll go. I thought of something and it slipped my mind now.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So that even when Hashem does hardships for him, I know what I wanted to say. We realize that it's from Hashem. So there's a mashal given that a person, a dog, okay, let's say a dog, he's hit by the stick. So who is he upset of? Who is he upset at? What is he upset at? The stick. But who's holding the stick? The owner is holding the stick. But he doesn't see that. He thinks the stick is what hit him. And that's what we do. When something happens to us, we don't think it's from Hashem. This person got me upset. She got me angry. She got me upset. She took my parking spot. I could say that because I'm from New York. Over here they have such a things. She took my parking spot, She got me upset. But it's from Hashem. If we realize it's from Hashem, are you going to get upset? Maybe. Not as much. And maybe you're going to recognize Hashem didn't want me to have that parking spot. I'm going to get a better parking spot. That's what you should be thinking. That's what I try to think, I'm going to get a better parking spot. I'll let her have it. Or, we're stuck in traffic. How many times I'm stuck in traffic? Why is this happening to me? Why did I have to miss the train? Why did I have to, Do we know? We don't always know. And sometimes when we know, we're like, oh, Baruch Hashem. But when we don't know, we don't say, oh, Baruch Hashem. We're like, So really our first reaction should be, this person or this thing is not what's causing this. This is from Hashem, which is a very high level to be on, because you have to be at Tamim. So this is what we're striving for. To try to see and to think, not even to see, to try even just to put that in your mind. Maybe this is what Hashem wants from me right now. He wants to test my patience. Oh, I have to read something to you. I just realized there's something else that came up. I'll tell it to you now. I just got a text today of a story from Sylvie Youngrice. You know who she is? She's Robertson Youngrice's daughter. What's her last? She's another Wolf. Sylvie Youngrice Wolf. So she told over a story that she made plans to take her kids to the museum in Manhattan, the 9/11, museum. And she was all excited, and they had a whole day planned for them. It was like the day off, and everyone was going together in the car. It was like a whole day trip, and they're on their way, and they're so excited, and they didn't realize that because it's a legal holiday, that there's a parade, and that roads will be closed, and that everybody's going to the city, because it's in the city. And there's tons of traffic. She's like, all the Waze lines are all red, wherever you go. And our trip ended up being a 2.5-hour trip. And they're like hungry and kvetchy and tired. And why are we doing this? And where are we going? Now they have tickets for a certain time because they have tours there. Right. And she is on Shpilkas and they're running late and they're going to miss the tickets. And they already reserved these tickets and they're already on their way. And what are they going to do? And she decides, they're huffing and puffing. Finally, they get there, and they're not even there. They decide to tell the kids, you take the car, you park it. We're running into the museum to try to book our spot. So tell them we're here. And we get there, and we book our spot, and we're huffing, puffing, waiting. The kids are running. All of a sudden, they're coming inside, and they're all standing there, and they give in their tickets. And the guy goes, I'm so sorry, but you're 15 minutes late for the entrance. I can't let you into this tour. And they're like, huh? Please. And they're begging and they're pleading and they're thinking, okay, what are we going to do now? Like, we just spent 2.5 hours in traffic. Everybody's kvetchy. Everybody's hungry. Everyone's tired. How are we going to react to this? So she said, we could have been like screaming and yelling at this guard or, and like, we could have been cursing him out. We could have been like, and she decided that they're just going to make a day of this and they're going to be more positive, and they just turned things around and they chose to be whatever, to make light of it, and that they have a memory to remember by, that we were in the car so long, and like they joked about it, and that's what they did. Instead of reacting. She said, this is my choice with me and my husband. How are we going to react to it so that our children? And then she gave tips. I didn't get to read the rest of it, to be continued, of how are we going to work on this. We have to work on our attitudes. Our attitudes have to change. Our attitudes have to change, and how we view things has to change. Because if she would have reacted in that way, it would have caused a ripple effect for our whole family being miserable. So she stopped herself and she switched gears, and she just decided to make a joke of it and did something else instead. So this is something that we have to train ourselves. So going back to what Rav Asher is saying, when things, we want things to happen, and the way a person hopes, that when things happen a certain way, or a person hopes something was happen a certain way, he doesn't complain. A tamim doesn't ask why, but rather accepts that Hashem knows better than he does. And this I have to tell you what Rebbetzin Youngreis, Aleha Shalom, used to say. She says a person says why. In Hebrew it's lama. Lama means why. And we're not allowed to ask why. She said change it around. Lema. For what purpose? To what end? For what purpose did this happen? That's different than asking why. Right? That's trying to understand it. Mm-hmm. And the other word is madua. That's also why, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of madua, she says made'a. Ma ani mevina. What do I understand from this? What can I get from this? Different way of looking at it. It's the same word, but it's just a different perspective. So not asking why, but rather trying to understand that Hashem knows better. He says this is a really high level to achieve. And especially when what's happening around the person doesn't make sense. But that's a lot of things I tell you in this firm that I'm reading. It's our sechel that does this to us. Our mind plays tricks on us. And we think it's not logical, right? But it's not supposed to be logical because we're not controlled by teva. We're not controlled by nature. We're controlled by a higher force. And Hashem is kol yachol. And what a person's supposed to be thinking when I read it more in Sfarim is en od milvado. There's no one besides Hashem. Rav Chaim Volozhin says that's a big segula. If a person's in trouble, if a person's in need, to just repeat this again and again and again and instill this in his mind. En od milvado. There's no one but Hashem. There's no one but Hashem. And Hashem's going to help him. And this is a high level to achieve, especially when what's happening around the person doesn't make sense, he says. But if he could rise to the challenge and be accepting of Ratzon Hashem, he will be called a tamim, complete, whole in his generation. And I'm remembering, if you remember the fire of the Sassoon children, Malay Shalom, the shiur should be Ilu Nishmatam as well, that Rav Sassoon got up and he kept saying, I surrender my will to Hashem. I don't know why this happened, and I don't want to ask questions. I'm surrendering to you, Hashem. It's like, whoa. Nobody believed that such a person could go through such tragedy and lose so many children and say that this is the will of Hashem. But that's why Hashem was testing him, you know? To be a tamim is to accept and to surrender your will to the will of Hashem. There's
also something really beautiful written by that woman who lost her husband and I believe her husband's son in France. Remember with the school that was...
Yeah.
Yeah, and she wrote this beautiful article.
Yeah? Oh, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it.
I might have it somewhere.
Okay, great. So we're going to end just a few more things and we're going to end. We live in a time today, he says, when there's so many questions asked about the way Hashem runs the world that we have to remember there's so much we don't see from our own vantage point. And imagine I say this to you. What color is this? What color is this? What color?
Gray and white.
You agree?
Mm-hmm. Silver and white, yeah.
I don't think so. This is white. It's only white. It's pure white. Why? Because I'm looking at it from our vantage point. Right? So we're looking at this world from this vantage point. We don't see here. We don't see here. We don't see here. We just see here. We see one-sided. Hashem sees everything. And that's why he knows it's for our good. And we don't. So we just have to wait and be patient. And sometimes we see it. But sometimes we won't. We just have to believe it. So this tragedy just happened in Eretz Yisrael. I really don't listen to the news, Baruch Hashem, because it just depresses me. But something happened in Eretz Yisrael. There was a terrorist attack last week.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, there was a father that was killed.
Father and a mother, two separate families.
So he says that we witness a Jew getting killed because of his religion, because he's a Jew. Having left a family behind, and we're speechless, and we think to ourselves, how could such a thing happen if Hashem is so merciful? How could it happen? But Chazal tell us that if a Jew dies because of his religion, it's considered to die al pi kiddush Hashem. And that's the highest form of death, in which a person goes to a place in Gan Eden which even tzaddikim can't reach. And we don't understand why this person had to die right now. But he died al kiddush Hashem. And Hashem cares for yatomim and almanot, and he is going to care for their children. And every soul, it says, goes exactly through whatever it needs to go to in order to fulfill its purpose here. And we cannot understand, but we can and need to trust in Hashem. And this world is fleeting. Olam haba is forever. And we know that our purpose is in this world, that we're going through a posdo, we're just going through the hallway in order to get to Olam haba. And if we believe in Olam haba, then we have to believe that there's a purpose and meaning for everything. That whenever one suffers any pain, it's leman Hashem. And if he realizes it's leman Hashem, it says he becomes even more elevated. So we look at pain as the worst thing in the world, but the Gemara tells us, Shalosh matanot natan HaKadosh Baruch Hu leYisrael. There are 3 gifts that Hashem gave to Bnei Yisrael. Vekulan lo natnan ela al yedei nesurin. And he didn't give them only through Yisurim, he gave them 3 precious gifts, and one of those gifts is Olam Haba. That a person gets through Yisurim is in order for him to achieve Olam Haba.
And what are the other 2 gifts?
I actually didn't get to look it up. I apologize. Okay. I will try to.
That's okay.
I was also thinking the same thing when I heard it. I just heard this today. The only way to acquire Olam Haba is by having to endure pain and hardship in this world. It's like, ooh. But if we think about the people who have given us chizuk, it's because they've gone through some pain or tragedy. People who lost children and started organizations, right? And help to benefit the needy and the poor and, yatomim and almanot. There are several people in our community, I'm sure, that you could think of that have gone through challenges and today are here and giving us chizuk. The only way to acquire Olam Haba is to endure pain. And if during these times one is still able to continue to serve Hashem and love Hashem, those moments and times will be considered the greatest moments of his life. These times are going to be cherished by Hashem for eternity. This is like one was doing a kindness to Hashem, Kivyachol. What a powerful statement, that we're doing kindness to Hashem. So it says, Zacharti la chesed neoraich ahavat kelulotayich. I remember in your youth, the chesed. What's the chesed? What chesed is talking about? We say this in the Yom Kippur davening. Now, when the Jews were willing to follow Hashem in the desert, they didn't have food, they didn't have water, they didn't know where they were going, right? They were suffering, they had nothing. And it says that was a kindness. The kindness that they did to Hashem will be remembered forever. Because where don't we mention Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim in everything that we do, right? We can't imagine, it says, how great we can become just by saying the words, I trust you, Hashem. I'm going to continue serving you the best way of my ability no matter what I go through. And really what I would like to suggest today, I think she actually says it in here, is that a person has to utter these words. It's not enough to think it, it's important to actually say it. I trust you, Hashem. I'm going to do this to serve you, Hashem, to the best of my ability. And the Chafetz Chaim says that he used to have the following kavanot when reading this pasuk from Shir HaShirim. Pasuk says, Masauni, I don't know the pasuk, but I can quote it to you. Masauni hashomrim hasovevim ba'ir, hikuni pesauni. He says, he would think the Jews in history had to take so many punches and bruises. Right? That's what it means. Masauni, hashomrim hasovevim. Even by those guarding us, those surrounding us and guarding us, Supposedly, right? They were the ones that attacked us. He says the Jew has been tormented, ridiculed, and wherever he goes, this happens. And there's so much anti-Semitism around the world. But despite all the odds and hardships, he said, the pasuk continues. Im timtseu et dodi, if you find my beloved, matagidu lo. What is that talking about? When the Shekhinah is going to reveal himself to us in the future, and Hashem will show his radiance to us. It says that, what will we tell him? Ki cholat avani. I am so in love, right? I'm sick with love for you, Hashem. That no matter what we went through, that we know that Hashem does all for our benefit, for our good, and that we stay close to Hashem. That's what we said before, Tamim. And this is the glory of a Jew, to be a Tamim in a world with so many questions. And this can be accomplished by everybody. And I'm going to add, if a Jew works on his Emuna. So this is our avodah, ladies, to be able to accept the will of Hashem. And it's really avodah. It's hard. It's work. It's something we have to be constantly doing because it doesn't end. Like, every day we have different challenges in our life, from the smallest challenge of not finding things in your pocketbook, to, other bigger challenges with, our children, our parnasa, our health, our shidduchim. There are so many challenges that Klal Yisrael have. But if a person infuses his life with emunah and bitachon, that is going to be able to help him. And this is a book that I want to work on. We spoke about this at the beginning. It's called The Secret to Miraculous Salvation. And it's just like one thing to work on. And I would like to read this first thing that she talks about, if you don't mind. And then
Who writes it?
there's no name here, but supposedly we do know who it is. A lady in Borough Park. It's translated by somebody called Chana Toby Friedman, but it doesn't say the actual author's name. So this is her introduction to the goal of this book, and I really would like to use this book also. The life-transforming concepts in this book will guide us on how to ingrain bitachon in ourselves until it becomes part of our nature. Through this, we will draw down boundless brachot from above and generate miraculous yeshuot in all areas of our life, as is brought down in the Sfarim. Indeed, hundreds of people have seen supernatural salvations upon strengthening themselves with bitachon through the teachings of this book. They merited to see astounding changes in their lives and great successes in many areas. Through performing the exercises in this book, we will attain 3 awesome gifts with a short period of time. We will feel an inner sense of calm and serenity. Through the transformations of our emotions, we will see that our mazal, good fortune, will be elevated, and we will thus be blessed with both spiritual and material yeshuot. There are people who suffer from a negative outlook on life, which has become part of the subconscious mind. This usually occurs as a result of challenges in their life and a lack of awareness of the foundations of Emuna. Unfortunately, these negative thoughts can attract undesirable occurrences. Bezrat Hashem, through the exercises in this book, we will be able to change our thought process. And like I said at the beginning of the shiur, Emuna starts with our thoughts, right? Our thought process. And then as our Chazal ensure us, we will be zochet to yeshuot, even if we had in mind our interests that we are working on ourselves in order to merit salvation. As we know, mitoch shelo lishma, ba lishma. Through working on Emunah, we open the heavenly gates of blessing, and this automatically brings forth bracha into our lives and our world. Hashem, our loving Father, showers upon us blessings every second of the day. Yet every one of us is in need of some type of yeshua in a specific area. Lack of confidence, health, parnasa, finding a basher. What is the purpose of all these challenges? Hashem preordains all the circumstances in our life, which are all for our benefit, even though we don't always perceive this with our own eyes. Yet we know that the purpose of suffering is to bring us closer to Him. Idea for practice. Throughout the day when something unpleasant occurs, I remind myself that this is a nisayon from my Father who loves me dearly, and therefore I know that this is good for me. I believe that it is a golden opportunity to come closer to Him. And I would like to add to try to say this to ourselves out loud. Because when we say something, we make it muchashi, we make it real, we make it tangible. So just to say it out loud to yourself, I know this is a nisayon from you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, which is another thing I'm going to be working on, is to work on our thanks. Thank you, Hashem. I know this is good for me. And this is an opportunity for making me closer. Please help me to see that. Right? That's just once a day. I think it's important. So Bezrat Hashem, with the gifts that we had from these beautiful Sfarim that I was able to prepare from, that we should be able to have a week infused with emuna and bitachon, and to give us the ability to see Hashem more clearly in our lives, and to see how Hashem is good and kind to us in our life, and to thank Hashem. And I wish you all tzlacha. I wish myself tzlacha in that too.
Thank you
Shabbat,
so much.
Shavua Tov, and a Chodesh Tov, Bezrat Hashem.
Thank you. Very, very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're gonna send her an email about next week?
Yeah, I am.
We on for next week? Same time?
Just one